Hi everyone, it's Erin Scott here. Welcome to your October 2019 Alchemy Scope. Let's take a look at your growth processes, your natural growth processes for this Libra new moon cycle, which is correlating with our month of October, through three different modalities: an art channeling, a divinatory message, and an analysis of your astrological cycle. Hi Libra. Okay, let's take a look at the art channeling that came through here for you for October. You can see I'm starting with pen, and the bottom of the B of Libra got filled in. We have this kind of just flow happening. There was a lot of movement that came immediately for your imagery that ultimately emerged, but I had no idea what was coming. It was relatively quickly evident that an animal was emerging, but a whimsical animal, something fantasy-like that was coming through here. So we're seeing kind of a head emerge. And what you're going to find here is that, so there's this animal sitting on top of, essentially kind of like a jet ski, okay? And this animal is like sitting on this jet ski, all right? Now you can see a couple things about the animal. One is there are like these, first of all, it's like a triceratops kind of frill around the head. And there's these horns coming out the top, and then there's like a big horn up, at the nose area, right? And this wanted to be gray, okay? But there's also like this big tusk on the side, and there's another one that's going to be emerging as well. And it was very clear too that this jet ski kind of apparatus, it wanted to be pink. So you can see there's just a mixture here of kind of like a peachy color and red, since I don't have any pink pastels. But we have gray, we have this pastel gray, and we have this pastel pink, right? So we're making note of all of this stuff because all of it matters. It's all communicating something. Now here's the other kind of tusk that's coming out the other side of the face here. So there's the kind of the nasal area has this kind of horn, coming out the front of the face. These two horns off the head. And then there's these two kind of massive fangs or tusks that are coming out the bottom. And then teeth. You can even see at the bottom of the face, there's like these big boxy teeth that are also there. You can see here, this is on water. So the jet ski is clearly on some body of water here. And we're analyzing it now. So we're watching the quick version of, the emergence of the image, and then we're going to analyze it. Some of this, I haven't really analyzed it yet at all. So we're doing it now. Now the eye, okay, so there was an expression in the eye that was very clear to me. So after I drew it out at this point, that's why I'm circling the eye. All right. But it is interesting, though, because there's not a lot of gray around the eye. So where I circled it, actually, there's white around the eye. So I'm going to talk about that maybe, too. And here's a cloud. So essentially, the final aspect of this drawing that's emerging here is a cloud in the sky. But it's not just a white cloud. There's, kind of rain fill at the base there. You can see the shadow at the bottom of the cloud. Okay, so let's take a look. Now we're looking at the stilled image here of this process. Libra, let's take a look. The first thing that occurred here, I wrote out Libra, and the bottom of the B became shadowed, exactly like the last thing I drew, which was the cloud, with the bottom of the cloud being shadowed. The top is light, the bottom is shadowed. Same with the cloud. Top is light, bottom is shadowed. You're going to notice in both the bee and the cloud, the white portion is smaller than the shadowed portion, yes? Now, let me take a look. Let me take a look at my Pythagorean alphabet here. B is 2, which makes sense since A is 1. B is 2, number 2. Now, this could have to do with relationships. Perhaps over the course of this month. Now, we're just now analyzing it. It's all going to come together as however it will. But could it be, because the first thing out was the B with the top of the B small, the bottom of the B big, and the bottom one shadowed, okay? So B is correlated to the number 2. 2 indicates relationship, you and another. Keep in mind, 2 is not just relationships between people, but the relationship you have with your feelings, the relationship you have with your thoughts, the relationship you have with your context. But perhaps this is actually relationships with people. And I say that because of the shadowed component. It could very well be that for some of you, over the course of the October time frame, and we're going to be looking at your astrology coming up, but could it be that indeed in a key relationship dynamic that you have, whether it's a spouse or a partner, whether it's a good friend, a boss, or an employee, or a client, could it be that there's some dynamic happening where there's a lot of shadowed stuff coming back, meaning that you might have a lot of trigger activations with regards to a certain relationship, and you just want to escape like this triceratops sort of creature on that on that jet ski on the water. And we're going to talk about the eye and what I got from the expression on the face. Could it be that there's a lot of shadow stuff being reflected back at you? Indeed, relationships, any triggering event is a reflection of a narrative that we're holding, always. Otherwise, there would be no resonance with that shadowed component or quality set of the person or the relationship. So if indeed there are relationship dynamics happening in October and they feel negative or dark, or you just don't like them for this reason or that reason, you have to understand that you're only resonating with that trigger. It only activates you because you have that story, you have that narrative. So it takes the internal exploration. I do get that there's a heavier weight of shadowed experiences maybe with certain people this month versus the light or the joyful or the free dynamics that might be activated. Now, let's take a look at this triceratops / whimsical creature. One, he has, in the triceratops, there is that kind of thing around the neck. It's called a frill, and it's bony. It's called a bony frill. And it, not so much in this image, although it does it a little bit, but in the actual skeletal structure of the ancient triceratops dinosaur, that bony frill kind of covered and protected the neck. Now, the neck symbolizes a vulnerable place, right? I mean, you know, humans die easily through having an exposed neck, whether it's through choking or beheading or whatever else it might be. But the neck certainly, and that's where all the main veins from the heart, you know, to the head run. So it's a very vulnerable area. Now, protecting the neck could mean, because this particular animal does have his neck covered, and he's also kind of hunched over, right? He's fitting inside this jet ski thing, but he's kind of, what I would call, and what I really got when I was drawing it, was he's in a protective position. Does that make sense, Libra? He's kind of hunched over and he's kind of resolutely looking forward, like, get me the hell out of here. That's what it felt. That's kind of the eyes. The eye that we see on this side of his face, the eyes seem sad and they seem like they're doing the best they can. I say they, the individual. The eyes are reflecting that the individual here, this animal, is just doing the best he or she can. And for this month, there might be a need to exit a circumstance, a situation, an event, a partnership. There might be a break that's needed, Libra, this month. You might find there are a lot of dynamics happening in the month of October. We're going to talk about some of yours this month, and then I'll have a generalized, I'll have another video coming out with some generalized information too. But yeah, there's an intensified month with October. Indeed, I do think that you're protecting your neck. You're feeling a bit internally depressed or saddened, maybe about patterns repeating with relationships. Again, not necessarily a love relationship, but just relationships in general. Certain pattern is really creating the desire to just get the hell out of Dodge, okay? Now, it has to do with emotions. Why? Because this particular little beastie is on water. And it's choppy. This ocean is choppy. Now, the interesting thing, this is what I want to point out about the water. There's only the blue coloration that wanted to come forward at the front of the image. Do you notice that? I find that fascinating. All of the rest is blank. It's colorless. And I have to tell you, there's clearly something there with that. The cloud also, but the cloud typically white, it's on the white paper. That's not so much of an indication as thoughts or consciousness, although it very much can be, especially when we're talking about relationships and patterns that emerge, which is based on internalized blueprint wound patterning. You know, it's all thought. It's all consciousness, everyone. All of it. Everything. Okay? And the thing here is that behind the forefront of this image, all of the depth perception of this choppy ocean, it's all thought, Libra. It's all your mind. The choppiness that you are living on top of right now with that pink, which we're going to talk about that too, with this pink kind of, let's say, jet ski on top of the coloration of the water. Well, that is the present moment. It's choppy water now for you, meaning in the month of October, you're going to feel it, you're going to be in it, you're going to be on it, but you must understand that there is a process going on in your mind where you are bringing forward this choppy water in present moment based on past patterning. The choppy water, the thoughts in the background there, in the distance, represent patterns from the past that you're bringing into the present moment. But it's based on a wound pattern, and that's based on a particular sensitivity. So it's a matter of seeing clearly what's happening here. There's definitely some emotional scarring that's called to be dealt with. Now, are you going to desire to simply retreat? I see that. I think a lot of you are going to have some dynamics where you literally just need to get away. And the jet ski, I mean, I'm laughing, but you have to understand there's such a whimsical nature to this thing, which we're going to talk about, right? But the thing is, he's on the jet ski. This is about like speeding out, okay? So dear Libra, listen, this is the deal. This animal is somewhat adorable. I mean, he's kind of funky looking, but he's whimsical. He's cute. Now, the thing is, oh, Libra, he's radically protected, right? So he has the bony frill protecting his neck. He has the two horns up on the top of his head. He has the horn on his nose. And he has the two tusks that are massive. They're like walrus tusks, right? So this is a five bony protrusions from his face protecting himself. These are protective aspects of his physicality. So what does this say? And, by the way, and he has a mouth full of big square teeth. So there's a couple of things with that. One is 5 massive bony protrusions as a protective mechanism. That's a lot. 5 represents change. And we're going to talk about this particular new moon cycle. Actually, this is fascinating because I'm just now realizing, indeed, there are 5 protrusions. You're going to understand more when I talk about the astrology because 5 is keyed in. This was a Libra new moon. Libra, what we're talking about with this October cycle is the Libra new moon encoded narrative for this month ahead. And indeed, the sun and moon were conjunct at 5 degrees Libra. So this is big. It's significant. And again, this is a high level of self-protection here. You have grown these bony protrusions to ward people off, to warn them not to mess with you. Don't come close. Don't rile me up. I might hurt you. The thing about him, though, this animal here, this is a him or her, obviously, is the eye has a sweetness and a gentleness there. This is not an aggressive creature. This is a sweet creature. And this creature is just protecting himself, herself, from hurt, from wound, from, there's a fear here. There's a fear here. So there's a fear of getting wounded again, a fear of having to contend with that disappointment again, all this stuff. It's all this internalized consciousness, wound patterning, suffering. Okay? Now, the thing here is that the front of the mouth has all these big boxy teeth. Okay? Now, teeth represent chewing through a problem. It's the first stage of the digestion process. Why is that important? Because teeth represent digesting life, digesting issues, digesting circumstances, digesting life. Okay? So the thing is, there's a lot of teeth here. You have the skill to digest. But the interesting thing is you're choosing to turn and leave, to exit something. And the reason, by the way, why I know you're exiting something is because the cloud ended up behind this little beast. So this cloud is heavy thoughts. It's a rain-filled cloud. There's a lot of darkness there at the bottom of the cloud, just like the bottom of the bee, representing 2 relationships. So you're leaving something that feels too weighty, too rainy, too shadowy, too dark, too heavy. Okay? Now, does that mean that you won't return? No, not at all. In fact, for some of you, this is going to be maybe just a desire set for the month that you feel like, wow, I can't deal with this anymore. And for those of you awake and willing, you can be in contact to understand your encoded wound patterning. It's all in your natal blueprint. For those of you listening to this recording and ready to get clarity, maybe you don't have clarity about your wound patterning. You don't understand what the arc of evolutionary process is that's activated specifically for your blueprint. Because what we're talking about here is a generalized reading for Libra. Okay? This is for the archetype of Libra. But for you, you have specifics that are activated. Very distinct. So anyway, those of you interested, you can be in touch. Order a natal analysis. I go very in depth. Okay? Now, this all being said, the jet ski is pink. Pink. Pink is a combination of like yellow. Well, yellow and red is more orange. Pink is like a light red. And pink is like another color for the green chakra of the heart chakra. So pink and green can both be oriented or allocated or associated with the heart chakra. So there's something here you're leaving because your heart needs protection. The interesting thing too is that the beastie is gray. It's kind of this light gray. Gray is neither black nor white. Now keep in mind, the archetype of Libra seeks balance. It wants balance and harmony. It is oriented toward justice, fairness, and dynamic equilibrium. That's the archetype of Libra. For you, things might feel out of balance. And because of that, you're not understanding, you're not knowing how to navigate, to refine, to rediscover, or to navigate the evolutionary process of harmony, balance, standing your ground in the relational dynamic, or understanding your own shadow, owning your own shadow as part of the relationship dynamic. Because once you understand your own stuff, when the shadow arises with the other, there's a neutrality that gets activated there. Because you just realize the truth of what's happening, what's being reflected to you. And you inherently understand the function of that relationship. So it's very important this. So yeah, the pink jet ski, it's getting away because the heart, pink, is needing to escape the choppy waters based on past patterning. Now, again, the eye got circled. It was because of the expression. There's a gentleness there, there's a fear there, but yet there's almost, again, a little bit like Virgo last month. There's almost like a resolution to just do the thing that's needed now, which is, I need to leave. Okay? So there's almost like a little fear, there's a little gentleness, there's a sweetness here, and there's, I'm just focused. I'm focused on just that thing out there going away. Okay, escaping the thing right now. Will you need to return and confront the scenario or the circumstance? That's distinct for each one of you. But chances are likely that, yes, there's a wound body here that you're going to have to confront. Okay, but for right now, I do get that that's the activation. All right, beauties. Now, let's take a look at the divination that came through for you. A beautiful day outside. Halloween decorations were up. Fantastic day to pull cards out, in nature. For you, your growth edge, your point of maturity this month, what you need to evolve this month is third eye star. Use your mentoring skills. Now, this card came up for another sign last month. I can't remember which sign it was. Now, this is your reflection for this month ahead in October, okay? This is written by Cindy Solano. When you connect with your inner eye, you connect with your inner sage. To be a mentor is not only to give good advice, but to help others connect to their path and their potentials. It is a path of high integrity. Your words are power. They can be used to lift up or to destroy. Choose the uplifting pathway and celebrate other people's accomplishments like your own. Because in reality, we are all connected. Okay, so there's something here that's kind of interesting, because if we go back to the artwork and think about all of this, these 5 prongs of protection, these 5 horns of protection, all of those with this triceratops type of figure are all coming out of the head. The head. I didn't talk about that. So think about that. The head is your thoughts, your thinking, and your communications, right? So a lot of your defense mechanisms are coming in the way you communicate. And the interesting thing about this third eye star here, this is about you being mindful of the power of your words. Do you understand? There's something very beautiful about that connection point. All right, now let's take a quick look with your astrology, okay? Now, I have my notes here. You are looking at the chart, a whole sign chart with Aries at the ascendant for our Libra new moon, which we had at the end of September, and is imbuing the narrative for the growth processes for this month ahead. Now, Libra, for you specifically, this is your new moon cycle. And the sun and the moon were conjunct at 5 degrees 20 minutes Libra. Now, there's a couple things about that. One, the sun is the outer self, the moon is the inner self. Every month when they come into conjunction at a new moon point, this is an alignment of inner and outer, okay? So it's always a powerful time, and it's a time to plant new seeds, a new iteration of self. For you, this is so specifically the case because this is a Libra new moon cycle, so it's happening in your archetypal first house. The new moon, the new self in the house of the self. So this is big, right? It's a big time frame. In addition, Venus and Mercury were also both at the end degree points of Libra in that first house. Now, essentially, all of those points, the sun, the moon, Mercury, and Venus, were squaring the south node, Saturn, exact conjunction, and Pluto. Now, the sun moon at 5 degrees wasn't really squaring Pluto because it's out of orb, okay? But the whole of those planets, sun, moon, Mercury, Venus, all of those were squaring the south node Saturn conjunction in Capricorn. Now for you, the square was happening to the 4th house, the house of your inner emotional foundations, the house of mother, childhood, home, family, okay? So you are changing. Why? Because the sun moon was conjunct at 5 degrees, and because you inherently, your archetype is squaring Capricorn, and Capricorn is in the process of going through tremendous and deep transmutation. It has been since 2008. And south node Saturn in that 4th house, conjunct exactly. This is like the 3rd pass of the exact conjunction, Libra. Huge for you, okay? Meaning you as a new identity, as you step into some new iteration, a new chapter of growth with maybe some new dynamics or new patterns that might be coming up for healing, for seeing, for confronting, okay? You have to actually recognize the stuff before you can do anything with it. So for you, indeed, there's kind of almost a battle, Libra, between your identity, how you show up in this world, and your feelings about things. And keep in mind, for you, your 4th house of inner emotional foundations is aligned with Capricorn, ruled by Saturn. So there's a need to kind of contain and control what you express emotionally and even how you feel emotionally. And the fact is that this 5-degree new moon in your sign squaring the exact point of south node Saturn conjunction is massive, because that indicates that there's a pretty rigid and in place pattern of relating to yourself emotionally that could be quite overly controlled and overly cold, overly non-emotive, and too disciplinarian in its nature. Specifically for you too, there's almost this self-flagellation that is activated. You could really beat yourself up, Libra, with this dynamic. And this month, you could really be beating yourself up. The sun moon at 5 degrees is asking you to change, to grow, to evolve, to go with the flow of the chaos process that is currently activated and get free from any ties that are binding you. That's all 5, okay? Now, in addition to that, that 5-degree sun moon is opposed 3-degree Chiron in Aries in the 7th house of relationships. So indeed, yes, there are vulnerabilities coming up, insecurities and doubts coming up with regards to you, Aries, in relationships, 7th house. So how you show up with them, how you are received by them, etc. In addition to all of that, though, Chiron is, of course, the master healer and teacher, and there's a skill set there. Inherently, Libra, you have a skill set that is calling to be evolved over these months and years as Chiron moves through Aries, with regards to working with people, meaning you have a healer teacher role to play with regards to working with others, working with clients, working with people in the business that you do. Okay, now there's another thing here, which is that sun moon at 5 degrees in Libra was also exactly quincunxing Uranus in Taurus in your 8th house, retrograde at 5 degrees. That's an exact quincunx. So there's a dissonant relationship between the new birth and the changing of the self and the identity that was wanting to emerge through you and is wanting to emerge, with psychological uncertainties, psychological changes. The deep psyche is the 8th house. The 8th house is also your power. It's also the house of transformation. It's the house of merging with the other. This is about deep intimacy. You know, the dynamics of the marital union or the long-term partnership. Merging with the other through sex, merging with the other through shared possessions, shared finances, etc. Certainly merging through the other through the dynamics, the deep, intimate, and shadowed dynamics of the mind that come up that are reflected by the relationship. That's all 8th house. 8th house is the deep psyche, the wounds within the deep shadowed psyche. That's 8th house. So for you, indeed, this birth of the new identity, 5 degrees sun moon Libra, 1st house, quincunxing that Uranus in the 8th house. Yikes. I mean, what this could look like is, indeed, this month, there could be something suddenly that occurs with a long-term partnership, possibly a marriage for those of you that are married, that will test you, and it will test you in the process that you're currently in of changing, growing, and maturing, and indeed aligning to your own signature. Does that make sense? Some of you are going to feel some tension with people. There is going to be something that suddenly emerges or arises that is going to feel like a challenge, but it is part of your process this month. Okay? Now, what else do we have? There's also a T-square activated. In fact, this is important to talk about. This is a perfect place to land the reading. The T-square that's activated, the T-square that was activated on the Libra new moon, and that's imbuing the energy for October, is 26 degrees Mars in Virgo, opposing Neptune in Pisces, and then both of those squaring Jupiter in Sagittarius. For you, Mars is in the 12th house, opposing Neptune in the 6th, squaring Jupiter in the 3rd. There's a few different themes here, actually. It's very interesting. There's one huge theme that I want to bring up with you. For you, and for the last several years, with Neptune moving through your 6th house, there has been more of a desire to dissolve the work, maybe to dissolve the responsibilities at work, or to ease up on the daily grind, the 9-to-5 schedule, to maybe not work at all. You know, some of you just don't want to work, or you want to work much less and leverage your time, okay? Neptune going through that 6 definitely activated, right? The other thing now, though, for this month of October is Mars, at this point of the Libra new moon, Mars was opposing that point. And Mars is in Virgo, which is about putting the time and the effort and the work in, but it's in the 12th. So the energy that you have, the drive you have, is indeed putting effort into spiritual connection. Specifically, too, because Neptune rules the 12th house in the natural zodiac wheel, this is kind of a big deal, because What I get here is that a lot of you are going to need to retreat, which is interesting because of the beast that was needing to leave the situation. Indeed, some of you are going to be driven to go away for a weekend retreat, go away for a 10-day Vipassana retreat, go away to a yoga retreat, a health retreat, go away to nature. There's a desire to isolate. There's a drive to actually get away and isolate. That is, both of those are squaring Jupiter in the third house. And of course, Jupiter in the third wants to learn. It's curious. It wants to expand its knowledge. There might be classes that you want to take, things that you want to learn, teachers that you're seeking, that you're curious about, that you want to investigate. Beautiful, this. You know, it's not without its challenges, but it's all good, Libra. This is just the process now. Okay? Some of these processes, of course, are longer term. It's part of a bigger chapter of your growth, but all is well. This is just what's activated now, you know? Let me see if there's anything else. I think that's it, Libra. Listen, you know, I am going to post. I haven't posted them yet, actually, but I am going to post October sales. I had September sales that were up. Those have expired. I am going to have some specials that I'll end up creating and posting for October. For those interested in learning more about the kind of the layers of my work, you can see the links below. I do invite you to, number one, understand an in-depth natal analysis. Understand your blueprint. That's number one. Number two, please do the internalized, self-disciplined, self-accountable, self-responsible work that's calling now in the fall of 2019 before we get to the 2020 cycle. It's important for you to be as awake and aware and clear and grounded as you can possibly be before we enter the cycle. It's simply optimal to do that, okay? Now, for those of you interested, I also have some live sessions about live analysis of your distinct 2020 process and personalized videos of your 2020 process. So all of that can be linked below. Until next month, Libra, I send you much love and support, and I'll look forward to talking to you soon. Bye-bye.